say that it seems like you're muted, but you're clearly not.
We're good.
We've got it. Mr. Groneman, can you hear us now? Mr. Groneman? We cannot hear you. Okay, we'll move along. Kane?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye.
Johnson?
I don't think they can hear us.
I don't think so.
Mm.
Bynum?
Aye.
That only gives us 3.
We're going to have to pause for technical issues.
Oh, Eric, I thought she heard you now.
Oh,
Yes? Yeah, we've got.
Yeah, I was gonna say Erica said she could hear now, so whatever we did helped that.
Commissioner, Mr. Groneman, can you hear us yet?
Yeah, that's us. The UGTV broadcast was they didn't video.
Mr. Groneman or Commissioner Johnson, can you try and respond to us, please? I can't hear either one of them. Commissioner Townsend, can you hear us?
Good evening. Some I can and some can. I can see Madam Chairman's lips moving, but I can't hear her. I don't know if that's because her mic is off or what. So like I can't hear her now.
Commissioner Townsend, we can hear you now.
Yeah, but I couldn't hear Commissioner Bynum when she was speaking earlier.
Okay.
testing. Can you hear me
Got
now?
you now. Yeah, now. So it's kind of off and on.
Mr. Groneman, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to recall the minutes, approval of the minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. Groneman? Perfect. Kane? Markley?
Aye.
Johnson? You signified aye. Ramirez is gone. Bynum?
Aye.
All right, we have
Okay.
5-0. The motion
Thank you. Our
carries.
minutes are approved. And we have an item that we're placing first tonight. Normally, our requests to appear are at the end of our meetings, but we have a citizen who has tried twice to speak on our public agenda. And both times our meetings have run fairly long and she's not been able to stay online with us. So we want to allow her to actually go first so that that does not happen again. And we have Kristen Fornall Higby. Are you here or online, either one?
Online.
Thank you. You are, thank you for your patience in being able to appear. And if you would give us your name and city of residency, and you have 3 minutes to make your comments.
Yes, my name is Kristen Cornell Higby. I live in Kansas City, Kansas, off of 63rd Street. Over the summer, my husband and I found 2 stray puppies wandering our neighborhood. For the safety of our children and our own pets, we decided to contain them in our garage since we don't have a fence. The following day, we called animal control. We were put on number 14 of the stray pickup list, number 14. It took almost 2 weeks of checking with animal services and reaching out to any other animal shelter within our areas and Johnson County before we were able to get these pups placed with the Humane Society. I have since spoken with Ashley Scott, the Director of Animal Services. She informed me that although the shelter on Park Drive has 65 kennels, they average between 10 to 20 people on the stray pickup list any given day. She also added that summer and winter are their highest rates, I guess you would say. In speaking with you all, I only wish to highlight that these stray animals are a public safety issue for our human community, but also our own pets. Parvo is a very vicious and transferable disease in canines. So I was just wanting to bring that to your guys' attention. I checked the website for animal services and it seems like they're full like every week. So this is an ongoing issue that I hope we can pragmatically solve if there is any way of solving it. That's all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thanks again for having patience with our processes and even allowing you to speak. Ashley Scott might be here present in the room. Am I correct? Yes. You certainly may step to the podium and give us some remarks. I have quite a few thoughts of my own that I probably won't share most of them, but I will say that we need a bigger and better animal shelter. And we all know that. Other than that, I'll probably keep my remarks to myself, but if you don't mind, just address it quickly. You're coming up on the agenda anyway. So after that, you can just stay put and you have to press the button on your microphone. Thank you. And go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I am Ashley Scott. I am the Director of Animal Services. So yes, I would agree that our busiest time is summer and winter, which is, has the worst conditions for animals to be out in. So a lot of times, yes, we are very full. I would agree that we do not max out over 25 animals on our stray confined list, which is honestly, I know it's not ideal, but it is still very good compared to, the rest of the shelters around us. What I have changed in the last few months is I've changed our cat intake and the way we intake small puppies and dogs, and that is helping keep bigger dog kennels open. So I could say like 2 weeks ago, we probably had 15 people on our list. Today we have 0. So we have no people on our stray confined list for dogs. We only have 3 people for cats, and those will get called Thursday morning after surgeries Wednesday. So we are doing the best that we can with the resources that we do have. And I do appreciate you taking the time and patience with us. I know sometimes it is a longer process before we can get an animal in, but we try to provide resources for those people that are willing to hang on to those animals, such as food, cages, shelter, anything that could possibly help. And we try to get you in as fast as we can.
I appreciate your comments. I will say that in our communications over the last few months, you've indicated to me that we've made great strides in hiring. We were down quite a significant number of animal services officers, and you've made a lot of headway in that. And it really does matter, you know, as far as not only space, but enough
People to
staff
care for them. Yeah, exactly.
respond. So
Yep.
I'm really, in spite of the fact that I 100% believe we need a new, bigger shelter,
Right.
you've done a remarkable amount of work in bringing us as far as you have. So it is very much appreciated.
Thank you.
People do understand that once they interact with animal services and
Yes.
see the work you're trying to do. And
Yeah, we do have people that are very patient, and very willing once we explain our processes. And like I said, it is about that 2-week mark a lot of the times. But again, we try to provide them resources to get them through that time. And they're usually very willing to do that for us.
yeah, and we're grateful for
Yes. we
people
are.
like this lady who's willing to keep the dog for 2
Right.
weeks until we can take it.
Yep,
So or
absolutely.
Humane Society takes it. So we're grateful to that population as well.
Yes.
And with that being said, if you want to just stay, then the item on the committee agenda is we actually have an ordinance tonight amending Chapter 7 of our animal code. And Casey Meyer, I'll let you start it off and then we'll take it from there. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Casey Meyer. I'm Senior Counsel with our legal department. Animal Services, specifically the director, Miss Ashley Scott, requested these amendments. When we were discussing this, we met with County Administration, Miss Bridget Cobbins, and Municipal Court. We included Megan Schultz as well as the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor cannot be here tonight. We just want to make sure everybody was on the same page and that we understood everything that we were trying to do. And I'm going to let Ashley take it from there.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the first slide, I just wanted to share some information for everyone. So it's some statistics for you guys. So you can kind of see, obviously, COVID kind of messed some things up. So 2020 is an year. 2021 is when we really started kind of getting back into real numbers. And as you can see, total adoptions for 2021 was 668. Today, this morning, we were at 645. So I expect to hit that. My goal is to hit that 700 number by December 31st, which I think that we easily can make. We can see that we still transfer animals as much as possible. Our intake, I would expect that it probably would be actually greater than what you're seeing today. But again, we had one officer for almost probably 5 months of this year, which was some of our was during the summer, which was our busiest season. So we were limited on the amount of animals we were able to take, or else I'd see that number probably greater than 2021 already. And then calls, you can see, even though we only had one officer a majority of the year, our calls are almost right at 2021, and we still have 2 months to go. So our call rate is increasing significantly. So I expect that number to probably skyrocket as we get our new officers trained and we're able to answer more calls. I did start a foster program about April of this year. So far we have had 25 cats and 37 dogs that went to foster. They pretty much stayed in foster and got adopted through the foster program. So that's 37 dogs and 25 cats that did not take up a single kennel this year, which I know it's a small number, but it's still a big deal for us because those kennels, those dogs could have sat there a lot longer in our kennels than that 2-week time frame to get adopted in a foster. I will say right now we kind of average that 20 animals adopted per week. About 50 to 63 animals adopted per month. So we still do very well considering we're such a small shelter. So getting into the ordinance changes that I have, the first one I would like to bring up would be this. So it's pretty simple. It's simply changing the dangerous animal to vicious animal. That is because it is referencing 7.217, which is vicious animal. So the language to me is wrong and it needs to stay consistent with the section. So I'm just asking to make it consistent. The second thing I would like to respectfully ask to change would be tethering any animal in such manner as to cause injury, strangulation, or entanglement of the animal on fences, trees, posts, or other man-made or natural obstacles. I'm asking to change that from dog to any animal because I see so many times other animals are chained when they're not supposed to be chained or shouldn't be chained, and it's caused strangulation or other issues. So it's not just dogs. It's other animals in our city that have this problem, and it's not right. So I would like to change that to make it again consistent with the other animals that are suffering because of this. The next thing I'd like to talk about would be the dangerous animals. I would like to change the word bruise and remove that and bite injury so that it would read a bite injury is any contact between an animal's mouth and teeth and the skin of a bite victim, which causes visible trauma such as puncture wound, laceration, abrasion, or other piercings of the skin. From my research, we pretty much are the only one in the KC Metro or really in Kansas that have the word bruise included in there. And so I would just like to make it consistent, matching the rest of such as Lawrence and Olathe, for instance, have the same wording without the bruise in there. The next thing about the dangerous animal violation or ordinance, I would like to ask that the $100 million, $1 million dollar insurance policy be changed to 500,000. And that's simply because for a lot of people, that's just not realistic. They're not able to meet that, which means they're not in compliance with us. And so this is still one of the higher numbers in the area. So it mimics Lawrence Humane Society, which also has a 500,000. Other cities around us, such as Olathe and even Kansas City, Missouri, have 100,000. I think 500,000 is still sufficient because we still want it to be enough, but $1 million is just, it's not realistic for
Okay,
people.
and Commissioner Kane.
How much does $500,000 cost the people?
Would you know that? I wouldn't know that.
Can we find out?
Hmm.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the next thing would be vicious animals. So I kind of requested, and we had a lot of discussion about how to add more to this, because simply it was basically stating what a vicious animal was, and if you were convicted of having found guilty of owning a vicious animal, you were either removed from the city or have it humanely euthanized. But there's nothing, just like the dangerous ordinance or dangerous animal ordinance, there's not a failure to comply. And so I think it just, it's a good idea to have that failure to comply in case the animal is still found within city limits. Then, okay, what do we do? I don't want that situation to happen. Again, these animals have usually disfigured someone or caused great bodily harm. They should not be not following court orders. And so I am asking to add in several things. So one, have it changed to upon conviction, the court shall order the animal be removed from the city or humanely euthanized, and direct the director of animal control ensure that the order is enforced. Upon an order of removal, the owner, keeper, or harbor of the animal shall remove it within 14 days. So previously we did not have even the 14 days. So it is really hard to enforce as animal control when we don't have a set amount of days that the animal should be removed from the city. So again, it just gives more specific to that ordinance. If the court orders removal per subsection B, the owner shall provide proof of removal to the municipal court clerk through an affidavit with the address at which the animal will reside no later than 5 business days after the 14th day removal period. It goes into then the failure to comply. It shall be unlawful for the owner, keeper, or harbor of an animal ordered removed from the city per subsection B to fail to comply with the provisions of the section. In addition, failure to comply with the provisions of B or C is deemed a separate offense. Any animal found to be the subject of violation of B shall be subject to immediate seizure and impoundment upon conviction of a violation of subsection B. The court shall order that the animal be humanely euthanized. If an appeal is timely fashioned or timely filed, the municipal court shall suspend the euthanasia order pending the final determination of the court in which the appeal is under review. So a lot of this language did come from the dangerous animal ordinance failure to comply. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't have one for a vicious animal, considering it's a greater scale of harm to the community.
Commissioner.
Commissioner Townsend, was that you?
I was trying to say
Oh, it
Commissioner.
was you. Okay, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Townsend has her hand up.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. I'd like to commend the Animal Control Division for what they do, the great job they do with limited resources. The question I had, this goes back to the desire to lower insurance limits. Do we know, or is there a record kept in your office of bites or dog bites? How do we know that if we lower that, that would still be sufficient coverage? Do we have any idea in a year how many dog bites or other injuries are caused by animals in the city county?
Yeah, so I would be able to get that number. I don't have it with me tonight, but I would be able to get that number. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because I think that is something worth knowing before we talk about lowering insurance limits,
Right.
What do the numbers show us has happened in the past to citizens? But again, my compliments to you and your staff for what you do with limited resources.
Thank you.
With that. And I agree with Commissioner, Madam Chair, we have to look at something that will enable us to augment your facilities. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So I would suggest that, and I'm sorry, is your presentation complete? I didn't mean to
I have a
stop
few
you.
more slides, but if you-
Okay, please continue.
Okay. So the next thing that I would like to add, which this would be a completely new ordinance, would be the Reckless Pet Owner Act.
Is your
or
microphone
declaration.
on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thanks.
So the next ordinance I'd like to bring up would be in addition to our ordinances, which would be the Reckless Pet Owner Declaration. I would want to adopt this from Lawrence Humane Society. It states upon a fourth conviction of any violation of Chapter 7 within a 36-month time period, the convicted person shall be deemed a reckless pet owner. Upon the fourth conviction, the municipal court may issue a notification of the declaration of reckless pet owner to the person with the following: name and address of the person subject to the declaration, description, violation, and convictions that led to this declaration, name and description of all pets subject to the effects of this declaration, instructions on appealing the declaration to district court. The violation: once declared a reckless pet owner, a person shall not own, keep, possess, or harbor any additional animals for a period of 5 full years from the date of the declaration. No reckless pet owner will be allowed to own, keep, or possess an animal deemed dangerous by the municipal court. If convicted of possessing a dangerous animal or any additional animals, After being declared a reckless pet owner, the violation constitutes a separate and distinct offense subject to the penalty provisions of section 7-2. And I asked to add this to our ordinance because what I see most often is, I guess I'm going to call them repeat offenders. We have animals running at large from the same household. Well, what happens is a bite incident is going to occur at some point. Whether it's with that specific dog or is it, a month or two when they get a different dog. So I really like that it says they cannot own any additional animals. And I really like that it says that they can't own a dangerous animal after being declared. Because again, the issue that we see, or what I have seen in my experience working as an officer and now as a director, is these households are coming back with now a dangerous animal because they've refused to listen to simple running at large citations. I think it would also be beneficial for anything such as major neglect cases when we're seizing animals based off of pretty severe neglect. If you remove all the animals, and they have 4 violations, then they would not be able to be allowed to own additional animals for 5 full years. So I think we can really use this to our benefit to, again, help protect animals and the community.
Question, and it may be on your next slide, but if I fall under the section 7-82B, what's the penalty for me violating that? If I just continue to get animals. If I violate 7-82B, what's the penalty?
So the penalty provisions goes back to 7-2.
Oh, we go back to the
Correct.
other penalties.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'd be able to write this citation and it would, the penalty provisions of 7-2.
Okay.
Which we already have. Yes, that is it.
Judge Schultz, did you have something to add to our presentation?
No, I'm just here to answer questions if the commissioners have any.
So I think the question that Commissioner Kane has asked tonight, and then also Commissioner Townsend had questioned, like when we bring this, we pass it tonight to full commission, perhaps we could be ready with that information at the full commission meeting.
Yeah.
So the 2 things were, what would the average additional cost be on a homeowner's policy for making sure you had the $500,000 in liability coverage? And secondarily, Commissioner Townsend was asking if you could bring us the number of cases, maybe average per year over, and you all will know that in municipal court, I imagine, like how many vicious dog cases you've seen or had to adjudicate, and or maybe it's citations, because that's not always going to find its way to the court, is it?
This is Judge Schultz. I'm not 100% sure that each bite incident results in a summons. I can definitely get the statistics on the number of cases that are either filed as dangerous animal or vicious.
Okay.
But I believe Ms. Scott would maybe have a larger number.
Most
because of the
likely.
number of
Right.
just bite incidents in general.
Okay.
Correct.
So maybe both of those numbers, if possible, for when we see this again at full commission.
Yeah.
Are there other questions among the committee members? Okay. Can you see, Madam Clerk, anybody online that's asking to, either a committee member or a member of the public asking to speak?
There are no hands raised.
Thank you. All right. If there's no other discussion or questions, I would be willing to take a motion on the changes to the ordinance?
Markley, move to approve the changes.
Kane, second.
We have a motion and a second on the ordinance changes, and I would ask for a roll, please.
Roll call. Groneman? Kane? Markley?
Aye.
Johnson? Commissioner Johnson? Bynum?
Aye.
Vote is 4-0.
Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for the work on it. Really appreciate it. Johnson said aye, by the way. And next item on our agenda tonight is a presentation by Public Works providing an update on their strategic plan, our strategic plan. So I would like to invite Troy Shaw and David Reno and Jeff Miles. And Troy, are you going to lead us off?
Yes, ma'am, I'll start.
Okay. Thanks for being here.
All right, well, we have 3 members of Public Works staff here, myself, Troy Shaw, Jeff Miles, and then self-proclaimed handsome Dave Reno. So we'll be glad to talk to you. So thanks for the 2 hours you're providing us to go over our 42-page strategic plan. We will go. Now, one thing you'll find that's unique about the strategic plan we just completed is it is incredibly short compared to a lot that you see elsewhere. And that was by design and what we came up with. Since Jeff Fisher has been Public Works Director, this is our 3rd iteration of our strategic plan. We try to get to it every 2 to 3 years to revise it. So over the last year, we've had some continuous improvement meetings from everybody in Public Works has been invited to. Every level of Public Works is invited. I think some of the commissioners have even attended 1 or 2 of the meetings before. And from that input and discussions we've had in that meeting, we've modified our strategic plan, what we've done in the past. And we really think we've brought what Public Works is looking for in the strategic plan. So it starts out with an introductory letter by Mr. Fisher. And then we'll go on to this strategic plan. We can read this. I'm not going to read it all, but if Dave gets to the next one at some point. But like I said, it's a much shorter plan than what you're used to in strategic plans. I think it's 2 pages now just to make it legible, but we had it on 1 a while ago. So we worked to condense it and just show what we really needed. So Dave does have it on 1 page on the screen at least. So, and I'll do a quick introduction. So to start with, we look at our vision, and you'll really see a theme when you look at the vision and what we have going on here. The vision we have is we build leadership at all levels. It's that simple. We think that everything we do starts with leadership. And if we build great leaders, we will have a great team and we'll have a great output to this community. The motto, everyone's heard that, we can, we must. It's been on a lot of things over the last few years. So we have that. And then our mission is promote great culture, act boldly, and provide sustainable infrastructure that protects and enhances our community. So I kept it short and concise, but that's really what our vision and mission are. I'll turn it over to Jeff Miles to talk about the values.
Thank you, Troy. Jeff Miles, Fleet Manager, Public Works. Our values, 3 main values: positive culture, great customer service, and smart investment. You'll see below, we narrowed it down to 5. We had tons more, but as a group, we really debated back and forth. What is our top 5 for each of these values? And I'll touch on a couple of them. Some of them we feel that we're already good at, that we need to be great at. And some of these we feel needs attention. But all of these goals that are underneath these values, we feel are obtainable if we just put our mind and effort to it. So positive culture. A couple of things that jumped out to me is hire for attitude and train for skills. We feel that that's a big step forward in how we're really looking at teammates today. Great customer service. Close the customer service loop. That was something that we heard loud and clear, that if community members put in a request for something in our community, we should be able, we have the technology, we have the people to close that customer service loop, meaning touch that customer after that repair is made. Respond to all customers within 24 hours, even if we don't have an answer. If somebody takes the time to put in a request, we should be able to at least contact them within the next 24 hours. And I'll expand off of that a little as well. We'll hold the rest of the departments and divisions within the unified government to the same standards that we're setting with the community, because we rely on a lot of them to do our jobs. So we're going to expect that same 24-hour response out of them as well. Smart investment. You guys heard this a lot. Be data driven. Everything from fleet, building logistics, street department, you name it, we're data driven. That's the decisions that we're making. I'm going to hand it off to Dave Reno. He's going to talk about outcomes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Dave Reno, Public Works. You'll notice that we don't have goals this time around. This time we have outcomes. And the group spent quite a bit of time talking through whether we should have outcomes versus goals. If you'll recall, outcomes are the difference that you make, right? It's the improvement that you make. Whatever that might be, it's the difference made. We have a lot of divisions in Public Works, and not everyone is going to have the same goals. So we thought, well, we can't make something that fits everybody because needs are different across all the divisions. However, can we come up with some outcome statements that everyone can look at and reference in order to build their goals, not just within their division, but at the supervisor level, at the manager level, all the way down to, that field worker who's been here 3 days. It's time to set goals. And the hope is by using these outcomes, we can align ourselves behind them and ultimately produce goals that help us achieve the outcomes that we're after. And of course, the outcomes themselves are related to the commission's much larger goals across that pie chart that we've all seen. Can you scroll down just a little bit for me? So we have 3 primary outcomes. The first is trust in Public Works. There's a little description after each one of these. So conduct business in a transparent manner with great foresight, preparation, as well as produce effective communications, not just information for the public, but information that folks can actually understand. Unfortunately, the work that we do is pretty complex. It comes with a whole lot of jargon, but if we spend the time to use plain language, hopefully folks can understand what it is we're trying to do to help complete their business. Sustainable systems for delivering public services. That was very similar to one we had last time. And then, of course, a culture of excellence. Over the last several years, Public Works has worked really, really hard to improve the culture in our department with the belief that if we have people who show up and are happy to be here, they're going to go out and they're going to take great care of the residents in the community that we serve. We did take safety out of this as an outcome because safety is frankly fundamental. And you'll see it down there at the very end, culture of excellence. We want safe environments as well. This is especially true for everyone at the unified government, not just Public Works, but we want our teammates to come into work, do a great job, and then go home exactly the same way that they came here. I'll hand it back over to Mr. Miles with a little last minute update.
Yeah, we're going to tie the culture of excellence into just a little bit of shout out to a couple individuals that are here tonight. Before I joined the unified government, I worked with the American Public Works Association, the technicians competition for the metro area. That's where some of the top technicians in the metro area compete against each other to see basically who's the best in the metro area. When I joined the team 3 years ago, I encouraged several of our teammates in fleet to go out and represent. That was their first time, and the results are not any of us was proud of. We knew we could do better. So I wanted tonight, I actually invited 2 of them, the 2 tops, but one was unable to make it. But I'm happy to say they did compete 2 weeks ago for the second time. Not only did they, all 6 of them, represent the unified government well, but not only did we take second place, we took first place as well over City of Olathe, Lawrence, Independence, Shawnee, Olathe, a lot of metro areas. So it's something that I believe our strategic plan really echoes of where we're aiming to be. We want to be the best. So if you don't mind, I want to bring Andrew up. He's going to bring the trophy, the 2 trophies. And if we could give them a round of applause when he comes up. Come on up, Andrew. Go. Great job. And if you see on his arm, if you turn sideways just for a second, see he proudly wears his ASC certified. He did that outside of work hours to bring that certification to his job responsibility. So he does above and beyond along with all the fleet team members. Thank you.
I was going to ask before I saw the trophies, and so my question might be a little bit redundant at this point, but I'm really interested in the leadership development component of what's happening within the department. And it was interesting for me when I joined you at one of the roundtable sessions that you held with staff to see the broad representation of the department participating, and kind of the way that you are working with staff to make everyone a leader, basically. And I was curious, beyond the trophy representation, which is fantastic, and you should be very proud, is there an anecdote, not to put you on the spot, but is there an anecdote that you might share from the department where you truly believe that some action or outcome was achieved because of the hard work that you all have been doing with leadership development?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the roundtables are very valuable to us. As you've seen, we have everybody from every level sitting right next to each other. It's an open forum to talk openly and honestly. But back to the fleet division, I know I'm actually giving a presentation tomorrow, the UG Ford, on this very topic. And what I consider, it's the same team that was there 3 years ago. Definitely not my doing. It was just a belief in them, to trust them, to empower them to make decisions on their future. And they've taken the ball and ran with it way further than I could ever guess they would. And it's the same team by just trusting them and empowering them.
Commissioner, if I could add, I would say one of the things that we've certainly noticed is that folks don't wait around anymore to be told what to do. We've really worked to empower them to go out, make those great decisions, implement those great changes. And we don't have to say, hey, let's go try this. They show up and say, guess what we did? It's wonderful. Final leadership thought too, I think it's a commitment. We've really committed to it. You don't develop leaders in a week. We've been doing this now. My fourth year was October 18. So we've been doing this for at least 4 years. Mr. Fisher's been here for 5 or 6 now, and he started it. So you have to get up every day and say, yep, we're going to do that.
I'll say one thing I've been really impressed with after the continuous improvement meetings is seeing the people that are willing to open up and discuss and share their thoughts and help us improve as an organization as a whole. One of them, we had someone that had been here for 2 months and came in and was sitting in a room with a bunch of managers and felt comfortable enough that they could share their thoughts and what they expect and how they thought their first 2 months went. And that helps us be able to improve it for future employees as well.
That's fantastic. All of that. That's the kind of feedback I was looking for, and I really appreciate it. Commissioners, any comments? Yes, Commissioner Markley.
I always say it, but I'll say it again. You're a poster child for what our department should be doing throughout the UG. So I think that's the next step for us. Is we know you guys are doing great work. We need to figure out how you can pass that information along so that other departments can do the same thing and we can build leaders throughout the organization. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Commissioner Bynum. Echo everything Commissioner Markley said. We all know during the subcommittee meetings, that open, honest conversation helps. We all, both staff and commission, we all put our cards on the table, had those hard conversations. So it can work. It does work. So as Commissioner Markley said, you're the poster child of what our UG department should continue to do. So thank you for all that you do. Every single employee of the Public Works Department, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, do I see Commissioner Townsend's hand up? Yes, Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to add my congratulations to the entire team there in Public Works, and just wanted to get a little bit more detail about the award that was won. I see on TV all the time the different, quote, rodeos that Public Works departments across the metro participate in. There was one recently, I think, for people who are planning to keep our streets clean and snow and ice free coming up. So I would like to know a little bit more about what specifically the award recognized. And again, my congratulations to everyone in Public Works for the hard job you do, again, with limited resources, and where you're going, as my other fellow commissioners have mentioned, in terms of developing staff and personnel. So.
Thank you for those kind words. Yes, I'm going to speak on behalf of Vinny Bellacci, the street manager. He's done an outstanding job. A few years ago, him and his team started the internal rodeo, where they compete against each other and ultimately different snow districts, and then compete against each other, ultimately internally. Next year, they're planning on sending them to that regional competition, but they really wanted to perfect the internal side first. So I know Vinny and his team has that goal to join that metro competition next year. But if anybody ever wants to come out and see it, or even next year want an opportunity to drive one of those trucks, it's very, very challenging to go through the cones and hit the pylons. And it's an excellent training opportunity, as well as in a safe environment. But it's right there at Fifth in Minnesota. B&L helped us with the parking lot there. That's we get to do a lot of training as well as that competition. They just had it a few weeks ago. And I do not know the winner off the top of my head of who here within the UG that won it, but it was a great event, a multi-day event. That's Prairie Village actually came out and used our course as well. So that it's quickly growing.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Okay, thanks very much. Is there anyone here in person that wants to address any of this item? All right. Well, it was an information only item, and we, again, always appreciate it very much. And that item does conclude this Public Works and Safety meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Markley, move to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Groneman. Payne. Markley.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Vote is 4-0.
Thank you. The meeting is adjourned, and I will hand this over to Commissioner Angela Markley for Administration and Human Services. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm just going to give a minute for folks to transition so we can hear better. We shall see. I know, I see Brent. All right, team. Before I call this meeting to order, I want to announce that some committee members, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of the meeting. The public may also indicate their intent to provide remote public comment by contacting the clerk's office by 5 p.m. the Thursday before the meeting. The public also will have an opportunity to provide brief comments either by telephone or via Zoom from the fifth floor conference room of the municipal office building. I will now call this meeting of the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call, Kane, Johnson, Ramirez,
Here.
Bynum. Here. Markley.
Here, that was a whole lot easier with everybody in the room, wasn't it? There are no revisions to tonight's meetings. Our first order of business is the approval of minutes from our August 22nd meeting. I got a motion. Do I have a second? Second from Ramirez. We have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane, Johnson, Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Vote is
All right.
5-0.
Item number 1 is a resolution. We have a couple of grants to accept, which is always a nice thing. We have a resolution accepting maternal and child health universal home visiting expansion funds grant. Terry Garrison is here to tell us more. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley, and the other commissioners. Yes, we have been awarded a expansion grant through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, Bureau of Maternal and Child Health, to expand a universal home visitor program to mothers and newborns for the first 12 months of life. And these are community health workers that go and see the moms at the hospital and start and can go and see them in homes to get an idea of whether or not they need additional supports and additional services, and also refer them then into our intensive care home visiting program as well, Healthy Families Wyandotte. So it's kind of the first, meeting of the moms to make sure if they have need for car seats, safety travel, safety beds, sleeping quarters that are safe, and be able to move them into the intensive home visiting if necessary, or if they request or want.
Great. Any questions, commissioners?
Is there any match? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Johnson.
Is there any match?
There is no match needed with this. It goes in from October until June of 2023 with KDHE's agreement that they're going to try to expand it past that.
Anyone else? Clerk, any comments from anyone, anywhere?
No comments received, no hands raised.
I will accept a motion.
Motion to approve, Johnson.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Kane, Johnson,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And our next item is also a grant acceptance of National Association for City and County Health Officials grant. What I really want to know is, do they call it the Nacho grant?
I'm sorry, do they call it what?
They call it the Nacho grant?
Nacho.
Nacho better. And are you going to tell us about this one as well?
Yes, I am. So this is a grant. It goes, it's $300,000. There is no match to this grant, and it is to for implementing overdose prevention strategies at the local level. It is through the National Organization of City and County Health Officials, or NACHO. It is to provide assistance for counties that qualify as high-risk substance use prevention and recovery efforts. What our plan is to utilize these funds in 3 sectors. One is to hire a certified peer support specialist. It's a state certification. And in the community health division, their primary role will be to connect community members with substance use services to aid in recovery. Also to create a unified government substance use recovery website that will be kind of like a one-stop shop for addiction prevention and recovery needs for Wyandotte County. And then implement a mass communication campaign for substance use disorders, education, and help access for community members. We're partnering with local treatment organizations such as the Wyandotte Center for Behavioral Health, as well as the Mirror and Heartland RADAC organizations. We're also partnering with our first responders, the KCKPD community intervention officers, as well as the community paramedics with our EMS.
Questions?
Just to,
Commissioner Kane?
do we put this on our Facebook and our website and stuff like that? Because this is certainly something I think that should go on there.
As far as the award of the grant or the services themselves?
Both.
I believe it does go on the health department website.
Okay, great. Move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. Clerk, any comments from anyone anywhere?
No comments received, but we do have a request to fast track.
Commissioner Bynum?
Just a quick comment to Commissioner Kane's question. You know, given the magnitude of the scope of this, I just wonder, so for example, could we work with, or are you already working with Ashley Hand or Crystal McFetters to augment whatever information we are sharing with the public? It's so critically important. I think that's what.
I think it needs to go on our main Facebook.
Right. That's all I wanted to say.
My
Just
motion
whatever
to
we can
add
do
to
to.
fast track it as well.
Okay.
Second.
Second agree.
All right, fast track added. Any other comments?
No other comments.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. Kane.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Barclay.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0.
Thank you. All right. Thank you guys very much. Item number 3 is a resolution approving the 2019 annual plan amendment number 3 for the Community Development Block Grant Fund activities. Welcome, team.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get the slides up.
No worries.
All right, good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having us here. My name is Stephanie Staufer. I'm with the Community Development Department. I'm a program coordinator. And I have some folks here with me to present from the Public Health Department and from the Community Health Council of Wyandotte County, and I will let them introduce
Put
themselves.
your microphone up just a little.
Sorry, I never know how loud I'm being, so I have to.
And it's testy, so 1 minute it'll be loud and then the next it won't, but.
All right, how about now? Is that too loud? Okay. And so I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Brian Matlock with the Community Health Council. I'm Brian Matlock with the Community Health Council of Wyandotte County, and I'm the Community Health Worker Program Manager.
And I'm Wes O'Kane from the Public Health Department.
Perfect. So the item we have tonight is to provide an update on the CDBG CARES Act grant, as well as a substantial amendment to the 2019 plan to re-obligate some funding that has been unspent so far. And just as a refresher, I know it's been a while since we talked about this grant. So this is community development block grants that came through the CARES Act, and there were some special rules with that funding. And so we, of the 3 allocations in CDBG CV that came from HUD, we received 2 allocations. It was about $2.1 million. The funds are can be used for all eligible CDBG activities with the additional stipulation that they must prepare for or respond to COVID-19. We have a 6-year performance period on the grant, but 80% must be spent by next August. And then there was another additional rule that we had to allocate the funding in a way that prevented the duplication of benefits. So we had to do an analysis of every activity to make sure that we were filling
a gap and that there wasn't already a program there to fulfill that need. And so we initially thought we were going to fund 3 activities. That was the WICO Connect program. We worked with the Community Health Council to launch that. There was rent and mortgage assistance, and then also food and meal programs. But there were a lot of rent assistance programs, food assistance programs that came out of the CARES Act and then ARPA. And we even received in our department a $2.3 million additional grant for ESG, which is homelessness prevention services and rapid rehousing services. But now we think we have a really great opportunity to extend the WICO Connect program, reallocating that funding that was put towards activities that we weren't able to carry on. And so I'm going to turn it over to the experts really of the program, and they're going to share a little bit about WICO Connect so far and what they've accomplished.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you all for being here with us. So basically I'll be going over what has been accomplished so far with WICO Connect and our community health worker program generally. The Community Health Council was a partner with the UG Public Health Department from the beginning in addressing the pandemic, and WICO Connect grew out of that partnership. Our CHW program has enrolled over 3,500 clients in case management services across Kansas City, Kansas, Bonner Springs, and Edwardsville. And this has yielded almost 15,000 client interactions between our CHWs and those engaged with our services. One of the benefits of the WICO Connect program is that it serves to expand the capacity of services available in our county. Recent studies show that community health workers improve access to services, improve health outcomes, and lower costs. As a result, community health workers have gained significant investment during the pandemic. Community Health Council's Community Health Worker Program, of which WICO Connect makes up 42%, is the largest CHW program in the region with the highest rate of retention. Our program has been recognized as a regional gold standard and is used as model for CHW program and community initiatives across our county and state. We are considered a model training site for the Kansas and Missouri sides to offer the Community Health Worker Training course multiple times a year, along with various other health, mental health, and case management trainings. We're helping to increase the number and quality of community health workers and agencies and clinics for our county and region. Additionally, through WICO Connect, we've directly provided community health workers to safety net clinics, nonprofits, and public agencies in 14 locations across the Kansas City, Wyandotte, Bonner Springs, Edwardsville, especially east of 635, where some of the highest financial impact of the pandemic, as well as the lowest vaccination rates are. At 8 hours a week, this is estimated around 5,000 hours of work embedded in local institutions, having hit every zip code where there are inhabitants in Wyandotte. These community health workers are an essential part of coordination of care in our county. When someone shows up to a free clinic, they might also need help applying for SNAP benefits. Or if they show up to a food pantry, they need help with rent or utility assistance. So again, this program came out of the COVID response and from being an early and active partner. So that includes staffing of vaccine sites, education about the disease and about vaccinations, promotion and advertising of vaccination and testing events, connecting community members with resources. We're currently both a host site and community partner for neighborhood-based clinic locations and have set up mobile vaccine sites at businesses, churches, organizations, and pop-up events in the areas with the highest financial hardship and lowest vaccination rates in our county. For many, the financial hardships of COVID have been at the forefront of the pandemic. We've delivered over 5,000 food boxes, provided over 6,000 hours of interpreting, knocked over 50,000 doors since 2020, distributed over 700 tests to people, and coordinated over 4,000 free rides just this year through our TAP transportation program to places like doctor appointments and vaccine sites. And one of the strengths of this community-based approach is we have extensive presence in and trust among the community. We hire community health workers from diverse cultural and language groups who are peer educators and advocates. They spend most of their time out knocking doors at events and communities or at host site locations embedded in the communities. They are able to build the trust and assist many community members who otherwise might fall through the cracks. This makes WICO Connect a useful and flexible program moving forward. An example would be a housing program. The community health workers help people of various languages and backgrounds get connected with the resources in the first place. And then CHWs are an incredible retention approach. If folks have trouble paying, property managers don't always deal with this well, but community health workers help them to be successful and to get connected to resources to ensure that these resources get to the people who need them most. And then I'll give it to Wes to talk about the health department's experience in this partnership.
Thank you, Brian. So the health department is also a funder of the WICO Connect program. We specifically came in, the funds that come from CDBG are dedicated to Kansas City, Kansas, but we wanted to make sure that the CHWs reached everyone in the county. So we added some funding in to provide CHWs for Bonner and Edwardsville, and some other items that were not covered in the program too. But the great thing about CHWs is if you think about everybody in Wyandotte County split up into this 9-part quadrant, kind of like a tic-tac-toe board, and you've got health access on like the ability of people to access health and really any service on one side, and people's health problems or health challenges on the other side. There's this group of people in the very bottom left corner which have the highest health burden. They have the most health problems, and they have the hardest time getting to those services to reach them. And CHWs, because Wyandotte County has relatively more people in that quadrant than other counties and higher health burden, it's really important to provide CHWs to access healthcare, access housing, access government services. And so they're very effective at that. And they're a big part of our health improvement strategy. Like Brian said, when we transitioned from mass vaccination sites to more neighborhood-based models, we needed a different kind of workforce to help do that. And so the CHWs were really helpful in providing that. And the final thing I'll say is, just to tease, Brian mentioned housing, but the conversation about housing and affordable housing is heating up in the unified government, I've noticed. And I really do think it's important to invest in workers and workforce like CHWs, which can connect people to that housing, because you can build the buildings, but it's really important we have a lot of different kinds of people in the county, speak a lot of different languages, all sorts of income levels, races and ethnicities and backgrounds. And so having people from those communities help people transition into those housing places is really important. And they do that. And that's actually looking at the reports. I get the reports every quarter and I see the different types of services that your staff provides, and the housing services and utility services are two of the biggest ones. And I'm very happy about that. So this amendment to the plan comes with the recommendation of the Public Health Department.
And so while I have the plan open and I'm editing it, I needed to make one more adjustment to our home funds. So we've closed the CHIP Homeowner Assistance Program. And that's already been approved in the UG budget in the last budget cycle, you may remember. And so we just need to move that funding from 2019 into the affordable housing development bucket. And so that's the other fix that we're doing while you have the plan open. We're making amendments. And so there is a resolution that would allow the mayor to sign the documents so I can submit them to HUD for the amendment. And then we also need to have a public hearing. And so we would like to have that on November 17th if we could. And that includes both of the WICO Connect program extension and the change to the home program. And then this is just a picture of the CHC team. I think that's really important to see that these folks are the ones that are really out there making the work happen. And so I wanted to take a moment just to shout them out while we're here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bynum.
God, I just have a couple questions. I want to make sure I understand what we're doing, if you don't
course.
mind. So on the second slide, well, and this might just be me making editorial comments. I don't know. I'm good at that. So the next one, no, I'm sorry. Go back to the beginning. Original CDB GCV budget, and then there you go.
Of course.
You have the asterisks that say, due to the requirements to prevent duplication of benefits, these activities were ineligible, and it's marking the 750,000 in rent, mortgage, and then food and meal.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to dwell there too long. Just refresh my memory. We're talking about CDBG COVID money, and the feds are telling us we can't use those dollars for those things.
Right. Because the Kansas Housing Resource Center, they launched some pretty robust rental assistance programs that were available to Wyandotte County residents. And also through CARES Act allocations and ARPA grants that went out to nonprofits, there was additional rental assistance that was out there. And we didn't want to launch another program. Our money also is really restrictive. There would have been a lot of rules. People would have had to provide a lot of documentation, a lot of income qualification work. And so there would have been a lot of barriers. We couldn't have launched a program that would have been as good as anything that came out of KHRC.
So that's where the editorial comments come in, and it's not anything any of us can do anything about, but we know that this, I mean, particularly rent, mortgage, and food were like the most pressing issues that COVID brought to this community beyond illness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I can't wrap my head around somebody saying, but don't help people with that, with this money, you know, regardless of the other pots of money that we use funds out of to do that. It wasn't nearly enough. It's still not enough today. So anyway, that's the editorial comment. So toward the end, like second to last slide, I just want to make sure that, and Wesley, maybe you can help. So we are, next one. So this dollar amount.
It's really unrelated to anything CDBG-CB.
Totally.
Yeah, it's just a weird
so
fix.
Now we're gonna make the CHCs do housing.
No. No.
So this is separate. It's just internal.
Right. Yeah, and it's already been approved in the UG budget. It's just me going back and fixing the plan for HUD.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the other dollars are the rest of the funds, if you will. And that we are going to support our COVID activities. Am I capturing this?
Yes, that's exactly right. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
It will support the CHW program. There's an interim on the funding. And is it August of 2023?
So most of it will have to be spent by August. And there will be a little bit, the contract will be extended through December.
Okay, until December. But yes, it will go to support the WICO Connect program
Thank
at
you.
the.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. That's it.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. I guess this question is more for legal. Is this one entire full resolution or are these two separate?
Commissioner, this is Z Bishop with the Unified Government Legal Department. What I have in front of me and what I think is in the packet is one resolution to take care of these changes.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're making me quite at home. I'm resisting the temptation when you call roll to vote. So thank you.
You're welcome anytime, Commissioner Townsend.
Oh, no, I won't make this a habit. No. Good evening to everybody on the health staff. And I think maybe the question was just answered, but as I see the slide that talked about the original budget and the fact that the rent mortgage assistance, the food meal programs that Commissioner Bynum acknowledged, we cannot use them because of their redundancy, I guess, best way to put it. So that 850,000 is going where to do what now? Is that supporting the WICO Connect programs?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that was it. I think they had just answered that question. That was the one that I had. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Clerk, any comments from anyone anywhere?
No comments received, no hands raised.
It's quicker than what they tell me to say, which is anybody electronically, anybody virtually. I see a hand in the back. Come on forward, Brennan. Come up to the podium. Give us your name and city of residence. You have up to 3 minutes.
Yes, Brendan Crawford, Kansas City, Kansas. What? You're not divided. Oh, sorry. Hi, can you hear me? Okay, Brendan Crawford, Kansas City, Kansas. I just want to make a very quick comment amplifying the benefits that Wesley and Brian noted about the community health worker program. We have had a community health worker embedded with our property management, with our home repair, and with our housing counseling team for the last, I don't know, probably 6 months, something like that. It is a tremendous benefit to us as a housing developer, as a property manager, as a as a landlord that is accountable to the community. And our housing counseling team takes great advantage of the community health worker because there are intersecting issues of like all kinds of social determinants of health that come up during housing counseling interactions that HUD certified housing counselors are not equipped to deal with. So I cannot say enough good things about this program. Keep funding it. That's all.
Thank you very much. All right, team, I'll accept a motion. Oh, wait, I have another hand. Come on up. Name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
I know there were some organizations that applied for funds from ORPA. And
ma'am, I think that's the next item.
Oh, okay. So
this is for the CDBG plan.
The what now?
This is for the community development block grant item still.
Okay, I have a question about that too.
But okay, go ahead.
I remember when the community block grant started, and the purpose of it was for the disinvested areas of the community. And since it started and where it is now, it's like everybody's eating out of it, but actually it's not going to the people that actually could use that in the inner city, maybe even in Argentine, Rosedale, east of 635. Those are the people that the community block grant when it first got started. So I'd like to know the purpose of it now. It's changed so much that I think it needs to go back to the way it originally started, where people actually that need it can get that money for their neighborhoods.
Okay, does that complete your comments?
Is there an answer to that?
I think that, I think it was addressed during the presentation that most of the people served by this program are east of 635. And certainly if you guys would like to make additional comments, but your time is running. So I want to make sure your comments are done and then we can answer the questions after.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
I'd be happy to address that a little bit. I'm with the public health department, so I don't manage the CDBG dollars. But one of the reasons why these dollars might seem a little different from the normal pots is this was a COVID allocation that came out specifically for COVID. It was a one-time pot of funding that they really tacked on top of what you normally provide that was supposed to focus specifically on COVID, on people impacted by COVID. And so I think these funds were meant to be used a little bit differently than the normal CDBG dollars. So that might be one of the reasons why it does seem different than the normal funding.
I can understand what you're saying, but I know COVID came and I know there's money for COVID, but still people out there need their homes fixed. They need things for their neighborhoods. So nothing has changed from where it actually started. The funds are still there.
Ma'am, I think
still
what they're
called
saying,
Community Block Grant.
I think what they're saying is that these funds aren't allowed to be used for the same purposes as the other funds.
Okay, I'm just talking about the CBG, the originality of it.
Yep, I got you. Thanks. All right, any other comments? Not, I'll accept a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Kane.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
The vote is 5-0.
Thank you guys very much. All right. Item number 4 is an approval of the ARPA subcommittee recommendations. And it looks like Commissioner Davis, we've got Ashley Hand. I think everybody's been promoted. So you guys might have noticed we have some extra commissioners with us tonight, Commissioner Townsend and Commissioner Davis, along with Commissioner McKiernan, who wasn't able to be here tonight, make up the remainder of the ARPA subcommittee. So they are here tonight to see this through, and we're excited to have gotten to this point. We have a little presentation to kind of walk through how we got here tonight. Getting it set up. All right. Ashley, are you taking this away or am I taking it away?
Would you like me to start presenting? I can start presenting.
I would love you to. Thanks.
All right. Give me 1 second. Oh, it looks like we've already got it up.
Ashley, are you still with us?
I am. Would you like, I'm sorry, Commissioner Markley, I didn't realize you actually want me to carry you through the presentation. I'd be happy to.
Well, you're down on my list as presenting. So
oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, happy to do
so.
so. Fantastic. Well, my apologies. So good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Hand. I'm the Director of Strategic Communications and have been among the team here at the Unified Government supporting the ARPA subcommittee over the last about 10 months as they have worked through some of the prioritization of the federal funds received last year. So we spent some time last October kicking this off in a discussion with our full commission about what the vision for our recovery should look like. And we really felt that in addition to complementing the existing priorities that the commission has defined, really we wanted to focus on ensuring that we're investing in our community today in ways that helps us address some of the critical issues that were either exacerbated by the pandemic or certainly highlighted in terms of the kind of incredible impact this has had. So if we could go to the next slide, we then carried through that conversation and really tried to focus in on kind of what were the core areas for addressing this pandemic recovery. And the kind of three categories that the commissioners came up with were essentially community health and well-being, recognizing that our COVID recovery is ongoing. The pandemic is still here, and certainly last year, some immediate needs funding was issued from the American Rescue Plan as approved by the Commission last August as a way to address those ongoing community health needs. Second to that focus was our infrastructure and built environment. We know that streets are a priority among our community, but through our community engagement, we heard loud and clear the importance of affordable housing. And as Mr. McCain mentioned earlier, housing is increasingly a core area of our focus in terms of our economic development strategy, so something that's very important. And then finally, the third category is really looking at our organization and our community and the importance of being able to respond in the future. So what are we doing today to ensure that we are prepared for the future and more resilient, being able to respond to circumstances as they come up, and be able to continue operations and continue the support of our community. Next slide, please. So we kind of went through an exercise with the subcommittee once that was formed and convened last December, looking into more specific kind of targets for those goals. And I think a couple of things that really surfaced was this comprehensive strategy to housing. We know that this is important to the health and vibrancy of our neighborhoods, but it's also really important to our overall economic success, as we've heard throughout the budget process this year. And then the second kind of major priority that came out of those goals was looking at our fiscal sustainability. Next slide, please. We wanted just to kind of remind you, I know this has been an ongoing process, so we just wanted to take a step back and remind you that this is part of our larger program. There are local recovery funds that have gone to other jurisdictions within Wyandotte County. So unlike the CARES Act, which was kind of all kind of given to the unified government to then sub-allocate to Bonner Springs and Edwardsville, this in this case, the ARPA funds were directly allocated by the state of Kansas to the various jurisdictions within Wyandotte County. Next slide, please. So this will kind of take you a step back through time, just to kind of refresh your memory on how some of these funds have been spent. You had adopted some immediate needs funding requests that came through last August, including additional housing assistance. We, based on the calculation of revenue replacement, the commissioners voted to set aside those funds, which went back into our general fund, some of which are being used and some of which will be mentioned in a little bit in terms of being set aside for grant matching. There was an employee incentive for vaccinations back in last fall when really we were concerned about going back into the winter. And this is well before we had Omicron on our horizon, but we had just come through Delta, and certainly having the opportunity to ensure continuity of operations by encouraging staff to go out and get the vaccine. So that was quite successful. We've continued with addressing some of the public health needs, and then in May of this year, the commission approved some additional capital needs. So these were projects that had gone through considerable vetting throughout various processes, whether it's the CMIP, the Capital Maintenance Improvement Plan process, or other discussions with the commission. So that those monies were advanced then. And then I think it's really important to note that in the final budget of for the 2023 and the 2022 amended, was an additional allocation from ARPA was made for the emergency repairs to the Kansas Avenue Bridge, which we know is very important to the economic vitality and our connectivity to the rest of the metro. So that was something very important. So that gives us kind of a pool of money remaining for what has become the discussion for tonight. If you can move to the next slide, please. So just quickly pointing out the kind of timeline of this process. You know, I mentioned this development of the goals, and apologize for the quality of resolution on this graphic. And then we had a very deliberative process with multiple meetings held by the subcommittee through the months of December, January, and February. And then it culminated in a community engagement effort in March, where we worked with the community both virtually and in person to ask about their pandemic recovery and the impacts the pandemic has had on their neighbors, as well as their individual households, to really start to understand how we could best use these funds. We then opened up the conversation and engaged with some of our sister cities in Wyandotte County, speaking to Edwardsville and Bonner Springs. But then we opened a public application, which was open to nonprofits working in Wyandotte County, as well as unified government departments that had proposals to bring forward. We hosted several information sessions to help people understand. And if you can believe it, we received 172 applications requesting more than $84 million. So there was no question that there was need and a lot of really creative ideas for how these monies could be spent. So it took the team on the subcommittee of the commissioners a series of 8 different meetings to not only work through the prioritization strategy, but also to kind of cut the list down to projects that were not only fundable by the requirements of ARPA, but also available to be support initiatives and sustainable initiatives that would continue to grow. Because one of the things that the subcommittee had initially stated was that it was very important that these dollars, along with what the commission had asked for, were seeds of investment to help extend and expand the impact of ARPA investment as much as possible. Next slide, please. So what has happened is, in addition to hearing from the community about where their priorities are, we certainly saw quite a bit from all the different people who spent the time to submit their applications of those 172 applications. But of the, as the commissioners were able to weed down this list from 172 to about 29 projects, this is essentially how that funding would look if you were to advance this and we were to go out and award these monies today. About 32% would go towards housing related initiatives, and 30% would go towards health and wellness, which includes things like various services for youth as well as seniors and things like that. So we'll go through that in a little bit more. Next slide, please. Oh, heaven, this is a terrible resolution. We'll get this better for the next time and we'll make sure the public copy is available. What is, as a result of this hard work by the committee, they have come up with this list of 29 awards for a total award of about $13.9 million. And this is where you can start to see the housing projects, the work to improve recreation opportunities, whether it's Parkwood pool improvements or the Quindaro tennis courts, as well as early child education, and addressing needs for homeless and at-risk households. So there's a lot of really interesting and great projects here, but this did not exhaust the entire pool of money that is remaining, that is unallocated. There's about $3.1 million remaining in ARPA funds for future allocation. The committee has expressed a great desire to continue to look at housing, so that will be a continued conversation following this kind of round of allocations as appropriate. Next slide, please. So this is just the second set because it's too long to fit on one slide. And here we have additional projects addressing everything from food insecurity, childcare. Again, we had heard quite a bit from the community about how hard it was to do things without access to childcare, as well as mental health, and addressing some of the facility issues that we see, whether it's adding to our real-time crime center or helping ensure affordability at the Boulevard Lofts and Garden project. Next slide, please. So this is more for your reference. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This is in the packet. These are kind of the descriptions of the applications as given to us. So each of these applicants that have been shortlisted and recommended for funding, this is what they asked for and kind of their summary. Next slide, you can just kind of go through these. So it gives you kind of a sense of what each of them is looking to fund. Next slide. So that I encourage you to ask questions. We do have Erica Hupka from iParametrics online, who has been our incredible grant support on this and has spent a lot of time talking to these applicants to vet these projects, to understand the scalability. So if we weren't able to fund something 100%, for example, would this project still continue and would it be scalable? Next slide, please. And that's all I've got. So Commissioner Markley, I will turn this back over to you, but Erica and I are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. So I did neglect to mention that I did chair that subcommittee. So it has been a heavy lift. As you could see, we had 172 applications. The committee was amazing. I think I assigned them more homework than your average 5th grade student during the course of our committee time together, because there was no way for us to go through in a committee meeting, one by one, line by line, all 172 applications. So I asked them to go home, read the applications. We used a rating system based on our commission goals to rate those applications. And we came back together and sifted through the ratings to decide which ones sort of had the highest score amongst us as a group. So I appreciate the whole committee's dedication to that effort. As you can imagine, reading 172 applications alone was a time-consuming process for each of those committee members, and their dedication is much appreciated by me and hopefully by the rest of the commission here as well. Questions from commissioners? All right. Yep. I think we may have some public comment. Anyone here in the room who's interested in speaking on any of these items? Go ahead and come to the podium. Same run through as last time. Your name and city of residence, and then you have 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I noticed there's a lot of organizations that receive money, and I think that's good. But I think there are some organizations that didn't receive that maybe should have received. For instance, the Vernon Center out in Quindaro, it's been there for years. Used to be a school, and they're still in there, but there's a lot of work that need to be in that center. I mean, I'm sure some of you probably know about the Vernon Center, and I think they should have been considered. I see where a lot of money has gone to different organizations, a lot of housing, and that's good. But I think that probably should all came together. If it all came together, really could have probably built a facility for the housing, for the people that were homeless, because there's a lot of money. And also, the Boulevard Lofts, where are the Boulevard Lofts at?
8th and Washington Boulevard.
Ones on 8th Street? Okay,
Right.
yeah, they needed that because it's sitting there and it's an eyesore, and that's great. But that was, and also the coordinator and the consultant, who are they?
iParametrics, who was mentioned a moment ago, is our consultant. And then Gwen Thomas has been coordinating for us here internally.
Couldn't
And
hear
then,
the last part.
Gwen Thomas has been assigned our coordinator here internally. And those costs, I don't know if Erica or Ashley knows off the top of their heads. You should probably continue your comments because, again, I don't want your clock to run.
Gwen Thomas?
Yeah, I'm gonna, when your comments are done, we'll circle back and see if someone can tell the percentage that is and the percentage that's allowed for administrative costs. But your time is running. So I
Yeah,
want you
and
to make your comments.
okay, so I was wondering who those people were, the coordinator and the consultant. I was wondering who they are. I know you gave me that name, but I wonder who they are. But yeah, so I was thinking, so I brought up the Vernon Center because I think they should be given some money. I think you need to. They've been there a while and they've been asking, and I think a lot of people got a lot of money. They probably got more than they probably needed. I mean, you could have kind of helped. You know, some get this much, take it off there. You know, where you're helping everybody in a big way. But the Vernon Center, I think, really should have got some funds.
Appreciate your comments. Erica, I don't know if you're on and if you know off the top of your head, because it's a good question for the administrative portion, what is the allowable percentage and what percentage are we putting toward administration of the grant dollars?
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Erica Hupka with iParametrics. I'm also here in KCK. And
we have, ARPA is a very document heavy. It requires a lot of proof of expenditures and a lot of paperwork handling. And so they have allowed up to 10% of all ARPA funds to be put towards administration. Fortunately for us, we are, very arduous in what we do and very efficient in what we do. The unified government is only putting forward about 1% of what's allowable towards this. So though that number seems rather large, it's actually a fraction of what is actually recommended to spend from ARPA funds on these types of things because of the amount of documentation and proof required. Thank you. Thanks so much. Any questions? Any other comments from anyone here in the room? Commissioner Bynum has a comment.
I wanted to ask Erica to give us some sense of the many, many rules that we had to follow around allocating the funds, because there were many of them and they changed during the process, which was interesting and fun. So, and I'm specifically thinking of Vernon School, and I don't know, that's why I want Erica to help us, because it's possible through the application process that we began learning that certain applications did not meet the qualifications. I do not know if Vernon School was in that mix, but we had to actually rule out some applicants, and then we had to reach out to others because they were partially fundable, like a part of what they wanted to do qualified. So Erica, I just wonder if you could spend just a minute or two helping everybody. This was not a simple process. And I just think it might be beneficial to just have a little bit of overview around what some of the rules were that we were dealing in.
Absolutely. To your point, this was a plane that was being built as we were trying to fly it, as we're trying to make the best choices that we could for our community. And the regulations changed. It seemed like about every 2 weeks there for a little while we were undergoing this process. And I commend everybody for being as flexible as they were in the changes that we had to adjust to as we went through this. However, the ARPA final rule gives us a framework that we had to judge all applicants against. So if it didn't meet the qualifications of the framework, then we weren't able to pass that applicant through as presented for their grant project, unfortunately. And there were a lot of really wonderful projects that just did not stand up to the very detailed and specific framework that ARPA had set up at the time that we set up this grant portal. And if it didn't meet either what's called an enumerated expense, those enumerated pieces are ones that are very specifically tied to the pandemic, such as mitigation against COVID or protective measures against COVID or funding of programs to help prevent future pandemics and things like that. So there are those types of things that are very specifically spelled out. And then there are other opportunities that we're allowed to fund that have to meet certain types of guidelines. Most particularly, it is that it has to serve a either historically disadvantaged community or a disproportionately impacted community. And there are specific qualifiers that we had to run that against. And it's not the same as what you would find for a typical grant to run up against. So it's not the same metric that we were using for other federal grants, say Department of Justice or the HUD. You know, these different federal entities have different metrics. And this is no different, where it's a different metric than everybody else. So we had to run it against the established metrics that they provided for us. And unfortunately, that also disqualified several of the applications as presented. And we offered a phone line and an email contact throughout the entirety of the process to make sure that applicants had that available to them should they care to ask questions, or if they struggled at all with submitting their application. And that was really, our best opportunity to provide assistance with wording projects to make sure that they would meet the guidance.
And for those that did not present their projects in a way that was definable within that framework, we had to rule them out right off the top.
Thank you very much. I have Commissioner Townsend up next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to wait, and there may be other persons in the audience who wanted to comment, and my comments may apply to them as well. So if there's anyone else that you're seeing there in the room who wants to talk, I'll defer my time and ask you come back to me.
We didn't have any more hands, so I'd say go right ahead.
No more? Okay. Well, Commissioner Bynum and Ms. Hupka, who with the other Ms. Thomas, I think did a Herculean job on going through the details of what qualifies for ARPA, steering us in the right direction. Because with these federal programs, the applicants must dot every I and cross every T. That is part of the qualification requirements, not of just this process, but any of the federal grants that we are obligated to make sure, in fairness to all who apply, that we apply the rules uniformly to everyone. So to the best of our ability, that was done. There were many of us, I mean, if you polled each one of us on the committee, there may have been projects that each of us favored that did not get enough support from others, and it didn't make it. But every one of those applications was gone through. I don't know what the number is of the 172 that did not make it because of the way it was written. It did not qualify under the terms that we were given, set out by the federal government. Unfortunately, Vernon Center was one of them, but that was given close scrutiny, because if you go back to one of our meetings, I think it was in early September, I asked on the record specifically about the Vernon Center, and unfortunately it did not qualify. I've spoken with the director shortly thereafter and look in the future to give them some help or assistance in trying to get people who, can assist them in the future on making sure that whatever they're looking at, they can get assistance as much as possible outside. So not only Vernon Center, but there were others that for whatever reason did not make the list. But I want to make sure that people know that they were given close scrutiny for the purpose of making sure they were not overlooked, but just did not qualify on these particular circumstances. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the work that you and the entire committee, everyone that put in time on this committee did. I am glad I was not part of that process, because I have enough homework assignments. So I appreciate the fact that you all have come with a very comprehensive list. And also, I think I'm appreciative for Commissioner Townsend for speaking to Vernon Center and the things that that might have eliminated them from this time. I have just a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. I'm appreciative of the fact that there are several organizations that serve not only the Northeast, but specific to District 4 and around there. And when I look at the Village Initiative and when I look at Mission Adelante, Friends of Yates, Mount Carmel, the list goes on and on, Young Women on the Move. I appreciate the fact Hillcrest Ministries that there was given some real thought as to getting those funds into the area of town that really needs it, specifically east of 635. Also, I was looking at the Shalom House, which is an issue, or a situation that we've had to have some conversations about, the homeless shelter there. So I'm appreciative of that. Also, I'm glad to see that money went into Parks and Recs and that we're going to get some funds coming to both the Clam Park tennis courts and I believe they call it the Quindaro tennis courts, but I think that's the Parkwood tennis courts, as well as some other areas in the 4th District. The question that I have is, there shows that there is another $3 million to be allocated. What is the process for those that so those that are watching might be able to be educated on that as well?
That's a great question. And the answer is we're not sure yet. We have a housing and homelessness mayoral committee that's been meeting. We have a Churches United group that's been meeting, suggesting a housing trust. And then the mayor's been meeting with a group separately about homelessness specifically. I think we're trying to figure out, we set those funds aside because we feel like there's definitely within the committee and within the commission an intention to use some money on one of those 3 projects or a combination of those 3 projects or something related to housing. And we want to have that money available for such a project, but we are not at a point today where we can say what that project looks like. So the committee next meets on October 31st, and we're going to have some discussion about how to move that forward. If we decide that none of those projects that are in discussion are shovel ready enough to move forward, we may go back to the list of applicants and see who kind of ranked next in the list and kind of move on down. That's still a possibility, but the short answer is we're just not sure yet. We just knew there was definitely an appetite for making sure there was a possibility of funding one of those many housing initiatives that's sort of floating around in the periphery right now.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And maybe Vernon Center somehow we can speak to that then. I don't know. I'll leave that to you all's discretion and capable hands. The other thing that I just wanted clarification on was there's a microtransit.
Microtransit?
Yes. I just had it under my fingernails here. Can you speak to what that is, the microtransit piece?
Commissioner Bynum says she can answer that question.
Microtransit, in a very simplified form, might consist, Commissioner, of if the fixed route stops at 7th and Minnesota, but the person actually needs to get to 7th and somewhere else, the microtransit would fill the gap. Does that make sense? This is primarily designed around workforce. So microtransit is being developed across the metropolitan area, not only by KCATA, but also by their regional partners, like Johnson County is developing a very robust microtransit. And it's all about workforce. It's all about filling the gap where the fixed route bus service stops. But yet there's a gap remaining to get someone where they need to be, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that it is. And this is specific to Northeast, it looks like. Okay. And we also have Parkwood on the list there. So I appreciate that.
I was going to clarify for you that Clam, Quindaro, and Parkwood are 3 distinct things within the funding rubric.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you. That really helps me to understand those. And again, hats off to you all for a job well done. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Kane?
Can we pull it back up where it said Bonner and Edwardsville got some monies? And while we're doing that, can just remind us and remind the community who sat on that committee?
I chaired the committee. Commissioner Bynum was on the committee, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Townsend, and Commissioner Brian McKiernan. So 5 of us.
And that's great. Thanks for not asking, and don't ever ask. I think have you got that yet? I think what we have to remember, we have 172 requests. that you were under restrictions that they had to follow these particular guidelines. And as I understand it, they changed as they were going through. And as always, there's more requests than there is monies. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get as many as we wanted, but we sure got a heck of a lot. And I think it went to the right places. So Edwardsville got 0.68 million and then Bonner got 1.2 million. Is that correct? Okay, which is great. But there was a question that I received in an email saying that they didn't get any monies. And in fact, they did get some monies. So, and they have to go through the same process that y'all went through, right?
They have to meet the same eligibility requirements. I don't think either city opened up their money for application in quite the same way that we did.
Okay, but it still have to follow the same restrictions and the whole shooting match. And you guys did a great job. And we're never gonna satisfy everybody. But I think that you did a fantastic job. Now, can I make a motion now or no?
I would be happy if you made a
motion for approval.
I do think, though, I might have seen Commissioner Townsend's hand up before we brought up the presentation again. So I'll loop back and see if Commissioner Townsend has comments before we vote.
Well, I do. I want to thank Commissioner Kane for his, and I certainly don't want to take any momentum from that. But very quickly, Ms. Hopka was kind enough to go back and loop me in to show that there were, I think, 36 applications in total that did not meet the requirements. So if they did not meet the requirements, we're not going back and looking at those applications again. If this committee moves forward, somebody's got to move forward for the remaining funds, and we already have applications. So you've either met the requirements at this point or not. And again, I have to agree and commend Commissioner Kane, who's been around a long time and seen a lot of these processes before. None of us have seen like what COVID has wrought. But if you've got 172 applications that total 84 million, as he made mention of the obvious, everybody is not going to get money. We couldn't even give $1 million to everybody. But the committee tried to and did follow the requirements as they were given to be fair to everyone. So go ahead, Commissioner Kane. I like what you were saying. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you have something else? No. All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Kane.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Vote is 5-0.
Just again, thank you very much to this committee, but also to the whole ARPA team for that heavy lift. We're glad to have finally gotten this far. All right, item number 5, which is the final item on our agenda, is amendments for an ordinance amending code of ordinances, amending code of ordinances relating to Teen Advisory Council. Misty Brown's here to present. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. Misty Brown, Chief Counsel. So I am here to walk through the proposed revisions to the ordinance pertaining to the Teen Advisory Council. But before I do that, I would like to introduce Dr. Edwards, Mayor's Chief of Staff, to discuss the why this ordinance is in front of you tonight.
Good evening, Commissioners of the committee. Thank you for allowing us to submit this amendment request to you tonight. Many of you know that this summer we had an opportunity to host 17 youth here at the UG for a 6-week summer internship. At that time, those students were exposed to not only the number of departments here within the unified government, but Wyandotte County as a whole. We learned from that experience that we do have students that are interested in developing their leadership capacity, and we want to play a part in helping them to gain exposure, not only with public service careers and working in government, but also shoring up our talent pipeline for the future. And in addition to that, providing leadership opportunities from the talent that we have here within our organization, as we did in short order over that 6-week program. So we have a ordinance already on the books that we wanted to update, to revive, and to bring this back to life, to provide this as an ongoing academic year program. And we've worked with legal to submit some recommendations for your approval this evening. Thank you.
So commissioners, with that, I could walk through the changes of the ordinance if you would like me to, or I could not, understanding the time.
Commissioner Bynum?
Just a question. Oh, before I ask my question, Dr. Edwards, just as my dad would say when he was trying to be cool and hip with the kids, he would say, neato. So neato. Just a question, section 2-482, and it looks like you're eliminating B, C, D, but B kind of is specifying specific organizations. And I know some of those don't exist anymore. So is there a place where you are, I don't know, identifying other organizations or other groups that you're gonna, that seemed to be identifying the makeup of the group.
Yes, we did, not only in looking at those organizations that were no longer in existence, did create a change to the ordinance that would reflect similarly an adult task force that would be comprised of members throughout the community appointed by our county administrator. And I'll let our chief counsel speak to that.
So because some of those organizations didn't exist, they were struck from there. And so this task force would be 10 people who either work or volunteer in the management and operation of private not-for-profit or charitable organizations providing services to youth within the county. Members of the commission or the mayor could appoint members to be on this task force, and then it's ultimately approved by the mayor as it was before. And then these 10 members, their job is to screen the applications that come in, and the criteria for those applications are set out more clearly in this ordinance to ensure that there's a diverse population throughout the county, that ideally there would be at least 2 applicants from each high school within the county, and that hopefully each commission district would be represented.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. First off, I think it's needed. I think everyone on the commission would agree our councils and commissions and boards that we have need some cleanup and to look at through. So I'm very happy, especially with this one. I'm all for youth development. I work in education, and so this is something that is near and dear to my heart. So for clarification, and I think I'm reading this or understanding this correctly, the task force is different from the actual youth council. The task force is kind of like, quote unquote, overseer, would you say, or they just screen applicants?
I believe they're to screen the applicants that are coming in, and then the county administrator and the mayor are more overseeing the task force, which, I'm sorry, not the task force, the council. It's more of an educational component now to be the voice of the youth and to, like Dr. Edwards said, teach them about government. And then the terms of it goes from September 1 to May each year. And then the councils to come and report to the governing body. And it's, I think, envisioned to have a educational component the first year. And if they reapply and are reappointed for their senior year, then to maybe take on some special projects. I don't want to misspeak, so Dr. Edwards.
No, I think you've covered it. You've covered it well. I think one of the things that we also can consider, and to make sure that we're incorporating that advisory council in that first year of leadership development and exposure. We not only want to make sure that they work for the unified government, but they look at other opportunities to lead within Wyandotte County as a whole. And that second year, if you would look at section 2-485, those responsibilities are denoted there. That's when we would pick up that research, discussion, and or community-based impact that they would not only design, but implement in that second year after that first year of exposure and leadership development.
Okay, thank you. I completely 100% support this. It's something that we need in our community. And so if I make a motion to approve.
Johnson, second.
Any other questions? And Madam Clerk, any comments from anyone anywhere?
No comments received or hands raised.
Roll call on the motion, please.
Roll call. Kane? Aye. Johnson?
Aye.
Ramirez?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0.
All right. Thank you very much, both of you. And that was our final item for the evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Johnson, second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Kane?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Ramirez?
Aye.
Bynum?
Aye.
Markley?
Aye. Thank
Vote
you
is
all so much.
5-0.